Chapter 1869. Something happened to Chirix. His dark eyes burned with fire. Strong, angry flames lifted from around his body, burning the surrounding trees to ashes. In the previous life, he and she were siblings, but not related by blood. A reorganized family brought them together. However, she was not happy in that family, so he took her away without a second thought. The fire in his eyes burned more fiercely. A strong wind ruffled his robes, making him look a little bit crazy. No one knew he liked her in the previous life, and in this life, he happened to be her brother. However, he never asked for anything in return. As long as he could see her and protect her, even only as a brother, he was already satisfied. I don't ask for anything else. I just want her to be in this world. Why do you have to take her from me? Why? The crowd backed up, their eyes filled with horror and panic. This guy, it seems like he has lost his mind. He's crazy. Let's go. One of them turned around to leave, who knew in an instant the young man was already behind him. Feng Chung grabbed him and punctured his heart fiercely. The young man pulled his bloody hand out of the body. He looked terrible. After hurting her, no one can leave this place. I won't spare any of you. All of you deserve to die. Every time the young man said a word, one person would fall into a pool of blood. The young man's eyes were filled with madness, and his body emitted a dark aura. Meanwhile, in general manner, the battle was still going on. Tianya was covered in blood, and his robes were in rags. Even so, he was not the least bit distressed. Sui, on the other hand, looked a little more wretched. Her arms were cut several times. The wounds were hideous. Of course, more seriously injured than Sui was the White Phoenix. Me for extra chapters. Its wings were half broken, but it still kept comforting Sui. I'm fine, Sui. It doesn't hurt at all. Maybe I can't fly without my wings, but I can still walk and jump. It won't affect my life. It doesn't hurt at all. The White Phoenix's words made Sui want to cry. Her eyes were red, full of heartache. When Qing'er comes back, they'll ask her if she can heal your wings. It doesn't seem right being a phoenix, but can't fly. It's all right. It's just that I won't be able to carry you to the sky in the future. The White Phoenix smiled. An enemy suddenly rushed toward them. Sui did not have time to speak more and simply continued to battle. Everyone was exhausted from the war that went on for several days and nights. If it were not for some herbal dishes to support them, they would have long lost their energy and collapsed. Oh, Qing'er has given us all the herbal dishes, right? Sui seemed to think of something. Her heart fluttered a little. If she is wounded, how will she heal and recover her strength? The White Phoenix froze for a moment, somewhat stunned. A strong feeling of uneasiness surged to its heart, causing its expression to appear gradually anxious. Chapter 1870. Something happened to Qing'er. The White Phoenix turned its head, and in a flash, a figure in a white robe came in from outside the courtyard. He held an unconscious woman in his arms. Tianya lowered his eyes and saw Feng ruching in Nan Xian's embrace. His body stiffened, and endless anger instantly invaded his heart, making his whole body explode with rage. Boom! Angry flames surged out, blasting the middle-aged man who stood in front of him, making him fall from the air and land in the middle of the crowd. Xiaoya hugged Tang Yin and followed behind Nan Xian, but her gaze was locked upon the person in front of her. Her eyes were filled with grief, and she did not dare to let the others notice it. It was not until Nan Xian carried Feng ruching and disappeared into the courtyard that the others began to react. The White Phoenix rushed toward Xiaoya, panicked. What's going on? What happened to Qingqing? Xiaoya's heart sank in pain, still barely showing a smile. It's all right. He can save her. Yes, he can save her. Just like 1,000 years ago, she had saved him. How could the 9th emperor die in the hands of these people? Thousands of years ago, those people failed to kill her and ended up using Nan Chongfeng to threaten her. So, in this life, no one else should be able to touch her. Xiaoya looked down. Although she tried to convince herself in her heart, again and again, her heart was still immersed in pain. Tianya's expression darkened as his grip around the long sword that was dripping with blood tightened. That person was his granddaughter. his most precious granddaughter. Now, she was half dead and carried back by Nansien. All of you people deserve to die. Tyanya's red robes danced up wildly. His white hair floated in the wind. His murderous intent was so intense that it spread in the sky as he rushed toward the enemies inside General Manor. Nansien ignored the battle outside. He placed the young girl in his arms on the bed, moving very carefully, afraid that he might hurt her. Qing, sorry I came too late, but I won't let anyone take you away from me. Master, Qing Zhu stretched out its head and carefully said, Princess, she's dying. I'm afraid that there is no way to save her. Me for extra chapters. Snap! Nansien raised his hand and flung Qing Zhu away. Qing Zhu's head instantly hit the door, the pain bringing tears to its eyes, and it could not control its tears as it looked at Feng Ruqing lying on the bed. Princess is dying, but why doesn't Master believe it? Princess had always bullied Qing Zhu and threatened to turn it into snake soup, but it loved her. She was the only one who would stand by its master to the end. Now that she was gone, Qing Zhu was sad too, but it was even more heartbreaking when Nansien could not accept this fact. Ill-saved Qing. Nansien raised his hand, gently stroking the young girl's hair. His smile was as gentle as water. Master! Qing Zhu crawled up to Nansien's side. It wanted to comfort him, but a fierce gust of wind suddenly surged around Nansien, sweeping away all the tables and chairs in the room. Only the bed where Feng Ruqing was lying remained untouched. Chapter 1871. He is Nan Changfeng? IAT this moment. What Feng Ruqing saw before her eyes were darkness. There was not a single ray of light. She walked in this darkness with some confusion, as if no matter how she walked, she could not reach the end. However, she had a nagging feeling that she had forgotten something. No matter how she tried to recall it, there was no way to remember. It seemed that something very important, or the most important person in her heart, had been forgotten. Jir, a voice was calling, breaking through the darkness. Jir, this call was so familiar that it made her heart take a little. Oh, right. She remembered. She was the 9th emperor, and the person she loved most was Nan Changfeng. Suddenly, a familiar figure leaped into her eyes. The handsome young man in a white robe with vertical lines on his eyebrows came to her. Feng Ruqing was just about to speak when the young man suddenly pulled her firmly into his arms. Jior, I've come for you. Feng Ruqing looked at the man in a daze, frowning. She knew that the person standing in front of her was someone she was familiar with and very close to, but she could see another identical face through his features. The difference was that that person did not have vertical lines on his eyebrows or silver hair. Nan Changfeng? Feng Ruqing murmured. The young man looked down and smiled faintly. It's me, Nan Changfeng. I'll come and find you. Oh, Feng Ruqing nodded, her brows knitting. Where's this place? I feel like I'm forgetting something. I need to get out of this place. Do you have any way to leave? The young man pursed his lips and smiled. Jior, this is our home. Is it bad for us to stay in this place together? But I vaguely remember that someone is waiting for me. The person waiting for you is me. The young man raised his hand and touched Feng Ruqing's hair. Now that I'm here with you, there will be no one else. Jior, can you bear to abandon me again and leave me alone? He looked at Feng Ruqing pitifully. Feng Ruqing's heart softened. Yes, he is Nan Changfeng, the man I want to protect in this life. Changfeng, do you remember how I entered this place? Why was it all dark everywhere except for you? I can't see anything else. It is as though I am trapped in a world that I cannot leave. Me for extra chapters. She did not remember how she got here, other than the fact that she was the 9th emperor and loved a man named Nan Changfeng. She had forgotten everything else. No matter how much she racked her brain, she could not seem to recall. Jior, I don't know why we are here, but I know that having you is enough. The young man stepped forward and approached Feng Ruqing. But whatever you want, this place will give it to you. The young man raised his hand and waved, and a courtyard stood in the darkness. The courtyard was luxurious, like the courtyard she had on the mountain back then. Feng Ruqing turned to look at the courtyard. Her heart was still a little uneasy. Her lover was with her, but she felt like he was still thousands of miles away. a place that she could not reach for the time being. Jiwer, you look tired. Go and rest first. Don't worry. I will not let anyone hurt you again. The young man's gaze was deep and affectionate, just like it was back then. He always looked at her with such eyes before. That was why she could never forget him. Chapter 1872. His name is Nan Sien Iti. At the same time, the entire Tianya's manor fell silent. Nan Sien stood at the head of the bed. His eyes were slightly closed. A faint light lingered around him. His forehead was covered in a cold sweat, and his handsome face was a bit pale at this moment. Qing Zhu stood behind Nan Sien, looked at the man in front of him, and asked, hesitating a little, "Master, you want to send your soul into princess body again?" Nan Sien used his soul to wake her up for the first time when she fell unconscious for Empress Nalan. However, back then, he could easily send the main soul in. So why did it take so long to do so this time? Boom! Suddenly, a powerful force emanated from the bed, shaking the man's body, pushing him a few steps back. He opened his eyes, and there was a hint of exhaustion in his brows, but he seemed more cautious. There is a power in Qing'er's body, and that power is like a wall that completely blocks my main soul from entering her body. Nan Sien walked toward the bed. Qing Zhu was a loss, not understanding what Nan Sien should do next. Nan Sien sat in front of Feng Ruqing, his fingers caressing her face gently. His fingertips were warm as his smile. "I said that I will always protect you in this life, and I will fulfill my promise." The man closed his eyes slowly. At this moment, the light around his body was shining brightly. In this light, Qing Zhu clearly saw a transparent figure separated from him. It was a young man in a white robe with beautiful silver hair. There was a vertical line between his eyebrows that made him look so stunning. "Master," Qing Zhu trembled a little. "Your sudden progress in cultivation these years was all because of the main soul. Your strength will be affected if you lose him." However, Qing Zhu failed in persuading him. Feng Ruqing was too important to him, so important that he would give up everything to bring her back to life. He might lose all his power or might be killed, but as long as Feng Ruqing could come back, then he would definitely do it. As the light faded, the man's hair slowly turned white. Me for extra chapters. Qing Zhu stared at Nan Sien sadly. It then turned its gaze again to Feng Ruqing, crying, "Princess, Master has given too much for you, so you must come back. Without you, he would be no more." Within the courtyard in the darkness, Feng Ruqing looked up, and she seemed to hear a voice calling out to her. However, the voice was too small, like there was a huge distance between them, and she could not hear what those people were saying no matter how she listened. "Jura." Feng Ruqing turned her head, frowned, and stood up. "Changfeng, you really have nothing to hide from me? What exactly did I forget?" The young man smiled sadly. "Jura, how could I hide anything from you? Aren't we fine here? I can live here for the rest of my life, as long as you're with me. I'd never think of leaving, so don't go either, okay?" Chapter 1873. His name is Nan Sien Ii. Feng Ruqing stood in front of the young man and looked up at him. She and the young man had been together for some time, but she always felt that everything was not real here, and she did not know why. Even Nan Changfeng, who was standing in front of her somewhat, did not exist. It felt like her imagination. Feng Ruqing was stunned and raised her hand to pinch the young man's cheek. "I can feel him, warm and soft. Yes, this is the real Nan Changfeng, not my imagination. Sorry, I shouldn't have doubted you. I just feel something weird. Even the time I spend with you, I feel that it's fake." Feng Ruqing shook her head with a bitter smile. She slowly turned around and gazed into the darkness around her. "Besides, it's too boring to spend time here. I want to leave." The young man was stunned. He raised his hand and pulled Feng Ruqing's arm. He looked sad. "Jiwer, don't you like me anymore?" Feng Ruqing pursed her lips and was silent. "Jiwer, you promised me at first that you would always take me with you, but if you leave now, you would never see me again. Could you bear to let me be in this darkness? Alone?" The young man's gaze was fixed upon her. However, Feng Ruqing could not see her reflection in his eyes, In that instant, Feng Ruqing raised her hand and pushed his hand away fiercely. You are not Nan Chongfeng. Who are you? Her face was cold as she shouted firmly. The young man froze for a moment, his gaze bewildered. What's wrong with you, Jua? Im Chongfeng. Don't you remember the time we once spent together? Nan Chongfeng always listened to me. If I were to leave, he would have left with me. Feng Feng walked toward the young man. Besides, you said at the beginning that you came here to find me. So why is it impossible to leave? The young man was anxious and took Feng Ruqing's hand. Jua, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Haven't I always been in your heart? Always been in my heart. Feng Ruqing suddenly trembled, and she pressed her temples hard. She felt like those things that she had forgotten were about to come back to her. Just a little more. If Nan Chongfeng has always been in my heart, then who is the person who has been keeping me company? The one I love. There should only be one person, right? And there can't be two. So, who is that person? Feng Ruqing clutched her head tightly and squatted on the ground. She frowned, trying desperately to recall all the lost memories. Mother, mother, a soft voice suddenly came crashing into her mind. Who's calling me? Me for extra chapters. Since when did I have a child? Why can't I remember it? Mother, don't you want Xia Xia anymore? Mother, why are you ignoring me, Xia Xia? Xia Xia. What a familiar name, bang. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from the side. Feng Ruqing stood up and turned around stiffly. All the darkness, like a barrier, was shattered by a punch. Light poured from the sky, filling the entire courtyard with light. The man seemed to come stepping into the light, stepping into her heart. The man in a white robe was as handsome as a mortal, with silver hair and vertical lines between his eyebrows. Another Nan Chongfeng? Oh no, he's not Nan Chongfeng. His name is Nan Xian. Chapter 1874. Someone is still waiting for me. Qing'er, I've come to take you home. The man's voice was gentle, and it gave her a feeling of being in a different world. Feng Ruqing stepped forward and walked toward the man. Jior. Behind her came the anxious voice of a young man. Feng Ruqing turned around. Her gaze was as clear as water, but with a touch of determination. I've remembered all of it. You are not Nan Chongfeng. Nan Chongfeng has died. The person I love now is called Nan Xian. I was seriously injured not long ago, and am unconscious now. You don't exist. That was why you told me that anything I want would appear here. But as long as I did not think of something, it was all darkness. I forgot being Feng Ruqing and only remember myself as the 9th Emperor. So the person who appeared was Nan Chongfeng. Unfortunately, I have to return to my own world, after all. Those I love and those who love me are still waiting for me over there. She turned around slowly and walked toward the silver-haired man. Feng Ruqing did not turn back again, because the person behind her was already in the past. He was only a part of her imagination. She must return to the man named Nan Xian. The young man standing behind her did not move, nor did he try to pull her. He smiled faintly as his body turned into mist, slowly dissipating into the darkness. The courtyard also disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Only the man in front of her, with light, guided her way forward. Qing'e, the man extended his hand to her smilingly. I have finally found you. It took him all his strength and countless hours to break the barrier and to come to her side. Fortunately, she was still there, so that everything he had paid for was worth it. Feng Ruqing placed her hand on the man's palm. His palm was warm. It made her heart warm. Let's go home. Me for extra chapters. The home that belonged to them. The darkness slowly changed into light and fell upon Feng Ruqing's body. Her eyes went black, and her whole person instantly lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes, a beam of sunlight poured in from outside the door and fell upon her face. She was used to seeing darkness, so she was a little uncomfortable with this bright sunlight. She used her hand to block the light and looked out through the tiny cracks in her fingers. A familiar and handsome face with long white hair came into vision. She stiffened. The man smiled faintly. Nan Xian. Her fingers caressed the man's white hair. Your hair. Nan Xian's hair color was black like ink before, and Nan Changfeng's hair was silver. However, the man in front of her, he had white hair, and he looked somewhat weak, making her feel a little sad. Chapter 1875. Her pain. Nan Xian. Feng Ruqing's heart beat fast, and the sudden pain in her heart was somewhat unbearable. How did this happen? Nan Xian looked down at Feng Ruqing. This was the price he needed to bear for losing his main soul. I'm fine. Nan Xian raised his hand and pulled Feng Ruqing into his arms. He held her tightly, afraid that she would disappear again. I'm glad that you could come back. Feng Ruqing raised her hand and embraced the man in front of her. His white hair brushed her eyes. It was harsh, like a thorn, fiercely stuck in her heart. I'm sorry. Feng Ruqing lowered her eyes. I made you worry about me. Oh, how long have I been sleeping? 2 years. 2 years? Feng Ruqing stiffened as she raised her head. How many did you just say have passed? 2 years. Qinger, you have slept for 2 years, and I have been here with you for 2 years. His main soul was in her body, and it also took him 2 whole years to find her. Feng Ruqing froze. But why do I feel as though only 2 days have passed? How has it been 2 years? How did time pass so quickly? The place you were in was all in your imagination. So the time there was all in your imagination. In reality, 2 years have passed. The 2 years, she was in a coma, and there was no more laughter in general manner. Every day, they were just waiting for the day she woke up. Fortunately, she finally returned. Their wait was worth it. Nan Xian once again hugged her tightly, as if to hold her until the end of time, never to let go. Clang! Tang Yin came in with water and saw that Feng Ruqing had woken up. The water basin in her hand fell to the ground, and tears streamed down her face. In the past 2 years, she would bring water to Nan Xian every day so that Nan Xian could wipe Xiaoqing down for her. After all, her Xiaoqing loved cleanliness so much. How could she stand not cleaning herself for 2 years? Me for extra chapters. She burst into tears and pounced toward Feng Ruqing. This time, Nan Xian did not throw Tang Yin out. He let go of his hand, allowing Tang Yin to jump into Feng Ruqing's embrace. Xiaoqing. Sobs. I thought I would never see you again. It's all my fault. Tang Yin cried miserably. Her eyes were red. I'm glad I can still see you again. Xiaoqing, I will never be lazy again. These 2 years, I have been cultivating well so that I can protect myself in the future. I won't let you worry about me again. For 2 years, she simply brought in the basin of water and would not disturb Nan Xian. She would then go out to cultivate. She used to be mischievous and playful, but all these behaviors had changed in the past 2 years. She only wanted to cultivate. She wanted to be stronger. She did not want the people she loved to get hurt again because of her. Feng Ruqing raised her hand, gently hugged Tang Yin in her arms. She lowered her eyes and smiled faintly. It's good that you're fine. Yes, as long as you're fine. Even if given another chance, and I will still choose to stand on your side. The moment she said that, Tang Yin abandoned everything and followed her. So, she would never disappoint Tang Yin. Chapter 1876. Feng Chun might be in danger, mother. Xia ran in, looked at Tang Yin, who was being held in Feng Ruqing's arms, and then looked at Nan Xian standing at the side. She pondered for a moment before walking up and jumping into Feng Ruqing's arms. Feng Ruqing raised her hand and hugged Xia tightly, taking the little girl into her arms along with Tang Yin. Xia lifted her cute little face and looked at Feng Ruqing pitifully. Mother, why have you been sleeping for so long? I came back, and you didn't even pay attention to me, let alone look at me. Feng Ruqing looked down at the little girl in her embrace. It seemed that the 2 years she was away had indeed caused her family to worry. Where is grandfather? Feng Ruqing looked up at Nan Xian. Nan Xian's eyes turned cold. The person who leaked the news about Tang Yin is Nan Feng. Nan Feng leaked the news that Tang Yin was a beast man, thus causing Tang Yin to be attacked and Qinger to fall asleep for 2 years to save her. Since that incident, Tianya has left General Manor to find the Nan family, and now everyone in the Nan family dares not show their faces again for fear of getting into trouble. No one from Nan City dared to come out of their hometown, afraid that they would meet the madman, Tianya. And Nan Xian paused, looked at Feng Ruqing, and continued, with some hesitation. Feng Chun is here. Those people who were outside guarding General Manor back then were his men. Feng Ruqing trembled. She knew it. Only one person could do such a thing. However, she did not understand why Nancian needed to hesitate when he said this. It was because of this hesitation that made her a little panicked. What about Chainer? Did something happen to him? Feng Ruqing got out of bed, walked to Nancian's side, and tightly grabbed his hand. Tell me, did something happen to him? Ching, Nancian's eyes darkened. His condition is not good, but it's not as bad as you think. They'll take you to see him later. All right. Feng Ruqing's heart was full of anxiety, and her eyes were filled with impatience. Mother! Xia Xia raised her hand and tugged at Feng Ruqing's arm. She pursed her lips. I want to go with you. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruqing did not refuse, nodding slightly. She turned to look at Tang Yin. Tell Suyi, cousin Nailin, and the others that I am fine, but I must go to Chainer now. He must be waiting for me too. In the previous life, her Cheer spent his whole life protecting her. In this life, however, they became siblings once again. Feng Chun had long been an indispensable part of her life. She would not forget when she was in Huaxia. The young man under the tree reached his hand out to her and asked, Would you like to leave with me? We'll leave this home together. The young man's smile was like sunshine, lighting up her whole life and warming up everything she had. So, she followed him and left the place where there was no warmth anymore. Later, she left the young man, leaving him alone in the middle of that cold world. However, Feng Ruqing never thought that he would follow her to this mainland. Since they had reunited again in this life, she would cherish him and never leave him again alone. Chapter 1877, River of Blood, I Wu Ming City. It was located in the north of the mainland, surrounded by mountains, and was once a flourishing city. However, at this time, Wu Ming City was already filled with blood and corpses. In the eastern part of Wu Ming City, many skilled masters gathered inside a broken tavern. Their eyes carried anger and resentment. A madman has killed so many people. Now we have to hide in Wu Ming City, and no one dares to take a step outside. He will come after us. He's simply a madman, a devil. 2 years. Within these 2 years, this madman had killed nearly half of the people who attacked Feng Ruqing and Tang Yin back then. They hid in Wu Ming City, surrounded by mountains, and thought that he would not find them. But who knew that this madman would still find them? He is insane. If we continue to live like this, I'm afraid he will find this place sooner or later. We must do something. An elder in gray robes said viciously, and that bastard from the Nan family. He was the one who told us that there was a beast man in Tianya's manor, and now he doesn't stand up to fight the enemy together with us. The crowd fell silent. Indeed, it was all Nan Fang's fault. In the end, he hid in his Nan city while this madman forced them to hide in Wu Ming City and did not dare to show their face. This was all Nan Fang's fault. If Nan Fang were in front of me today, I would definitely drag him down with us. A green-robed man said sorrowfully. However, no one answered him because everyone understood that there was no more chance. The battle outside the city gate was horrible. Everyone was dead, and next, it was almost their turn. Boom! The door was violently blown open. Everyone stiffened and looked up. At that moment, endless coldness spread throughout their bodies, making their faces pale, revealing a look of horror. At the door, the sunlight poured in and fell upon the young man's body. He was dressed in black. His face was handsome but cold, with a pair of crimson eyes filled with fierce, murderous intent. The young man, like a devil, stepped on the corpses and walked toward the crowd. The long sword in his hand was dripping with blood. Me for extra chapters. This madman was coming after them. He swung his long sword, slicing through a man's head, causing a splash of blood as the man fell to the ground. Blood splattered everywhere and filled the hearts of those who had plotted to escape with despair. There was no escape. This madman was like the god of death from hell. No matter where they ran to, he would find them. Once he targeted them, all of them could not escape. By the time the young man walked out again, it was nearly dusk. A flame burned up from behind him, burning the house and even the whole city. Wu Ming City would disappear from history. There are 10 more. The young man muttered as the bloody light in one of his eyes became even more intense, surpassing the bright haze in the sky. He stepped on the corpses, passing over their bodies with a cold and solemn face. Chapter 1878. River of Blood 2-inch, that's enough. Lu Yining ran from the front and stopped the young man from leaving. Tears flowed down her face that was pale with despair. Master Feng, you weren't like this before. He was a demon now. What was the difference between him and the ones they had met over the years? The young man did not look at her. Only murderous intent was left in his heart, and beyond that, he could not see anything else. Not even Lu Yining could make him stop. Master Feng, do you really want to do this? Kill so many people? Tears of despair spread across Lu Yinyan's face. You've promised my father to take care of me. I'm begging you now, begging you to put aside your grudges, begging you to listen to my words and stop killing people. If the man who came from Master Feng back then is Tianya's grandson-in-law, it would have been nice if he had not left. He could have sealed the demon from Master Feng, but he left, causing Master Feng to become a demon who only knows how to kill and also put the world into chaos. Lu Yining clenched her fists with a gaze full of hatred. Master Feng turned out like this because of that girl called Feng Ruqing. Master Feng has become a demon because of her. Master Feng was a good man. He never killed people this much, but he has allowed the demon to take all his sanity because of her. So, this is her fault. There are still 10 left. Feng Chun looked up to the sky. The sunlight poured and enveloped his handsome but cold face. That's the last 10. He kept murmuring these words as if they were already ingrained in him, something he had to accomplish. Lu Yining trembled as she stepped forward again. This time, she stood face to face with Feng Chun and blocked his path with her arm. You can't go. You can't kill anymore. At this moment, she forgot that Feng Chun no longer knew anyone. Me for extra chapters. She also forgot that Feng Chun had witnessed those people killing the most important people in her life, and that intense anger had made his heart obsessed with killing all those people. He would remain so. Feng Chun raised his hand and grabbed Lu Yinyan's neck. Lu Yining was a little suffocated. Her face turned red as she stared at Feng Chun with those stubborn eyes. She believed that she would be able to make him recover. It would not matter even if it cost her life. Unfortunately, Feng Chun did not let go of his hand and choked her hard, his eyes bloodshot. Lu Yining could feel the murderous intent in Feng Chun's eyes. This was the first time he treated her like this. No matter how much Feng Chun disliked her before, he had never hurt her. Master, Feng! Lu Yinyan's eyes were filled with tears, her gaze still stubborn. You promised, my grandfather, to take care of me. You promised, she begged him to regain some sanity. She did not want him to kill any people again. Those people, even if they were not innocent, not all of them deserved to die. He had gotten his revenge, and the last remaining 10 people should be allowed a chance to live. Chapter 1879. I've come to take you home. However, at this moment, Lu Yining only felt suffocated. It was as if she would be buried in Feng Chun's hands in the next second. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she was stubbornly gazing at him. Perhaps until now, Lu Yining still did not believe that Feng Chun would really want to kill her, chain her. Suddenly, a voice came from the sky not far away. In this instant, Lu Yining felt the hand that grabbed her neck stiffen for a moment, and slowly, he let her go. Lu Yining fell to the ground, and the feeling of being able to breathe made her gulp desperately for air. Her face was no longer red. She looked up slowly in the direction where the voice had just come. In a moment, a stunning figure appeared. She was stunned seeing that face. Now I know why Master Feng cannot forget her. All men would fall in love with such a stunningly beautiful girl. Feng Ruqing stopped. Her grip on Xiaxia's small hand gradually loosened as she walked toward Feng Chun. Nanxian watched Feng Ruqing's approach and did not stop her. He did not know how the demon had entered Feng Chun's body, but he knew the way to make Feng Chun recover. The only way. Feng Ruqing stood before Feng Chun. The young man's eyes were still red, and his face was stained with blood from the battle before. Chainer, I'm sorry that I found you so late. I'm sorry. She walked toward the young man, her gaze filled with guilt. If she could have found Chainer earlier, perhaps Chainer would not have become so. When she was in Huaxia, it was always Chainer who was protecting her. After coming to this mainland, similarly, he was also struggling to protect her. So, in the future, it must be her who protected him instead. Boom! Powerful energy surged out, and a storm picked up around the young man's body. He raised the sword in his hand and pointed it at the person in front of him. This was the first time Feng Chun pointed his sword at her. Even though he did not make any more moves to hurt her, this action still made Feng Ruqing's heart ache for a moment. It was not that Feng Chun had turned his sword on her that hurt her, but me for extra chapters. It was because she did not protect him well and let him suffer too much alone. Chainer, I am Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing raised her hand and grabbed the tip of his sword that was stretched out in front of her. Do you still remember all that we experienced in Sanya Mainland? Do you still remember the first time we met? She was not talking about the first time they met in Sanya Mainland. It was the moment her stepmother brought the young man to their house when she was in Huaxia. Feng Chun clutched the long sword hard, trembling. He then held his head tightly as pain suddenly attacked him. He could not think of anything. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill all those people, and kill anyone who stopped him from killing them too. However, the voice in front of him was too familiar. It was so familiar that it penetrated his soul and brought a sense of familiarity to his mind. Chainer, Feng Ruqing raised her eyes. Her gaze was as firm as it was back then. I've come to take you home. Chapter 1880. I've come to take you home. Lu Yining was stunned. She looked at Feng Ruqing and then looked at Nan Xian, who stood in the sky and did not make any movements. Feng Ruqing and Master Feng are so close. Is he not jealous? Lu Yining did not know the relationship between Feng Chun and Feng Ruqing, and she thought it a coincidence that they shared a family name. The demon had grown inside Feng Chen's body when he knew Feng Ruqing's whereabouts. He was afraid of hurting her, so he did not dare to meet her. Therefore, he did not tell Lu Yining anything about his life. Otherwise, Lu Yining would find Feng Ruqing. So, Lu Yining had always thought that Feng Ruqing was the girl Feng Chun loved, but had married someone else as Feng Chun sent his men to watch her secretly. The young man looked up and stared hard at the woman in front of him. Perhaps the sword was too sharp that blood seeped from the woman's palm. It felt like a needle ruthlessly stuck in the young man's heart. Chinga! Nan Xian landed next to Feng Ruqing. He gently pressed her hand that was clutching the long sword. Let go. The only person who could make Feng Chun regain his sanity was Feng Ruqing. However, he would not allow Feng Ruqing to do something that hurt herself. Chainer. Feng Ruqing looked up a little at Feng Chun. The sword is in your hand. If you really don't even recognize me anymore, you can use it to hurt me. I won't resist. After all, it's me who failed to protect you. If I had found you earlier, you wouldn't have turned out like this. Lu Yining wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and stood up from the ground. She sneered and looked at Feng Ruqing. It is indeed your fault that he became like this. Nan Xian glanced at Lu Yining coldly. His eyes were cold, filled with murderous intent. However, he did not dare to leave Feng Ruqing's side, afraid that Feng Ruqing would do something to hurt herself for Feng Chun. He can't get angry, let alone use his spiritual power. Otherwise, the demon will grow stronger and take over his body. Lu Yining said coldly, but because of you, because of all the situations that happened to you. He was angry all the time. He could not control his emotion. Initially, your husband was able to seal the demon for him temporarily. If it were not for your accident, they would not have left so anxiously. It's you who has turned him into the devil. Do you know how many people he has killed for you? Feng Ruqing looked at Lu Yining coldly, and once again turned to Feng Chun. She came to take Feng Chun with her. Only that mattered to her now. She had no time to deal with others. Me for extra chapters. Chainer. Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. Look, Xia Xia has grown so big. and I found our grandfather. Father and mother are waiting for us. Our family will soon be reunited. Chena, let's go home. Lu Yining froze. Our grandfather? Father and mother? What does Feng Ruqing mean by these words? What does her grandfather have to do with Master Feng? Isn't Master Feng's family not here? Uncle! Xiao Xiao pounced toward Feng Chun and hugged his leg tightly. There was no fear on her adorable face. Chapter 1881. I've come to take you home 3. Uncle, Mother will be sad if you continue to be like this. Xiao Xiao doesn't want Mother to be sad. If Mother is unhappy, our whole family will not be happy. Uncle? Lu Yinyan's breathing grew heavy. Her face paled as she took a few steps back. Why did Feng Ruqing's daughter call him uncle? Qing. The young man lowered his eyes and looked at Feng Ruqing's face. Qing. Tears almost fell from her eyes. However, she held it back. Yes, I'm here. Qing. The long sword slipped out of the young man's hand. His heart ached as his eyes fell upon Feng Ruqing's bleeding palm. Qing. He kept murmuring her name. It seemed that he could only remember her name. Feng Ruqing raised her hand and pulled the young man into her arms. He's so thin now. I don't know what he has gone through in the past 2 years. Chainer, come home with me. All right. The young man's voice was a little hoarse, and he looked at Feng Ruqing unblinkingly. Master Feng. Lu Yining panicked and dashed up, trying to block the way. Master Feng, what about me? You promised my grandfather. He promised to take care of her for the rest of her life. Feng Ruqing looked at Lu Yining with a puzzled gaze. She frowned. Chainer, who is she? Feng Chen looked at Lu Yining and shook his head. I don't know her. You don't know her? Feng Ruqing was stunned and pointed to Nancian. Who is he? Do you still remember him? Feng Chen looked puzzled. He raised his eyes to look at Nancian, pondered for a short while. I don't remember him. Feng Ruqing froze. So Chainer does not know anyone except me? Nancian took out a bottle of spiritual liquid from somewhere and applied it to Feng Ruqing's palm. The wound in her palm healed at speed, visible to the naked eye. Me for extra chapters. Chinger, take Chainer away now. I have some things to take care of. I'll catch up soon. All right. Feng Ruqing did not ask more questions. She took Xiao Xiao's hand with one hand and grabbed Feng Chun with the other, smiling faintly. Chainer, let's go home first. Feng Chun nodded obediently, like a child, and followed Feng Ruqing. A smile appeared on his face. The smile was warm like the spring breeze. Nancian turned to Lu Yining after Feng Ruqing and Feng Chun had left. He walked toward her slowly. His cold face made her heart panic. Lu Yining trembled, and she seemed somewhat frightened as she looked at Nancian. Nancian was expressionless. First, you stopped me from leaving, but I stayed to save Feng Chun. Then, you tried to stop Feng Chun and me from saving Qing, but I was in a hurry to get to her, so I didn't have time to deal with you. This is the 3rd time you have tried to stop us again, and Nancian sounded indifferent. You spoke ill of Qing. Chapter 1882. No one is allowed to insult her. Her body trembled harder as Nancian walked toward her. She looked up at the man, standing in front of her with a pale face. These days, Feng Chun is indeed in a bad state, but to me, he did nothing wrong. He didn't kill the innocents. The ones he killed were the ones who almost killed Qing. Lu Yining bit her lip hard, but he has gotten his revenge. There's no need to kill everyone. If Master Feng were healthy, he would never have killed so many people. Nancian's face was cold, expressionless. How well do you know Feng Chun? Back then, he did not know that Qing was his own sister. He could disregard everything for her. He abandoned his adoptive parents and fought for her against the world. Do you think you truly know him? Do you think Feng Chun would not kill those people who hurt her when he recovers? The man's white robe rippled in the breeze. His voice was cold. He had no mercy on people who hurt Feng Ruqing. Just like Tianya, all people in this mainland knew that Tianya was an upstanding man. However, once he had someone to protect, he would give up all his righteousness for her. Lu Yinyan's face was pale. No, I know Master Feng. He's a kind man and will not kill at will. That's because no one has ever offended Qing. If someone offends her, all the integrity will be left behind. I don't care what relationship you once had with Fengshan, or who asked Fengshan to take care of you. I will never allow anyone to humiliate Qing'er. I believe that Fengshan will not forgive you for this. Lu Yining looked down and clenched her fists tightly. Master Feng did not tell me that she's his sister. So what if she is, and so what if she isn't? Even if she's not Fengshan's sister, you've no right to insult her. Nan Xian raised her sleeve, and a light flashed, instantly causing Lu Yinyan's body to be lifted from the ground. Her body trembled, and her courage to even stand up disappeared. I just felt sorry for Master Feng. I didn't mean anything else. After all, what has happened to Master Feng was all because of her, really. Nan Xian sneered. Tianya's men have already checked. The reason why the demon got into his body in the first place was because of you. You touched the demon, and when Fengshan saved you, it entered his body. Lu Yining was stunned. She stared at Nan Xian blankly, unable to say a word. Me for extra chapters. What makes you think it was Qing'er who harmed him? Why didn't you ever think it was your own doing? Nan Xian moved closer to Lu Yining. I knew that your grandfather saved Fengshan. He had repaid the gratitude when he saved you from the demon's seed. He owes you nothing. Fengshan always keeps his promises, so he still kept you around to take care of you. Fengshan was Qing'er's brother, so he would not allow anyone to take advantage of Fengshan. Your ignorance has put him in harm's way, and you have put all the blame on Qing'er. I won't hurt you for Fengshan's sake, but you're not allowed to appear in his life ever again from now on. Otherwise, he raised his hand and chopped a tree by the road. It fell to the ground with a loud thud. You'll become like this tree. Nan Xian turned away without so much as a second glance and disappeared with the breeze after saying that. Chapter 1883. Going home, Lu Yining froze to the spot, staring in the direction where Nan Xian left. She understood that she had lost Fengshan forever. Lu Yining lowered her head. Tears flowed down and soaked the ground before her. She did not understand why this happened to her after what she had done for Fengshan. They did not understand how much she loved Fengshan, and now they would not let her get close to him again. She had never felt jealous of Feng Ruqing. She just wanted to take a look at her to see how good the girl who was always in Fengshan's heart. She did everything because she didn't want him to get hurt. She only hoped that he could live well, and watching him from afar was already enough for her, deep in the forest. Nan Xian raised his hand and wrapped his arm around Feng Ruqing's waist. He smiled and looked at her gently. Qing, let's go home. All right, Feng Ruqing smiled. Where did you go just now? Just dealing with some personal matters. Now that it's done, we can go home. He did not turn around again. All of them ignored Lu Yining in the distance and gradually disappeared under the night. In these past 2 years, the mainland had been burnt. Fengshan's ruthlessness had terrified the world, especially those forces that attacked Tianya's manor. They were even more panicked. Most of them had died. Only the remaining 10 all ran into Nan City. That was the only place where they could hide for the time being. In Tianya's manor, Suyi smiled faintly as she turned to look at the old man next to her. Father, your body should have almost recovered recently. Huh, indeed, but my strength has not recovered for the time being. Old Master Nan laughed out loud. He never thought that he would live comfortably after Nan Feng had taken over the Nan family. Especially nowadays, Suyi could still accompany him. Don't worry, you will get your strength back sooner or later, but, Father, you've sacrificed a lot for the Nan family. I don't want the Nan family to fall into Nan Feng's hands. I will go get it back later. I'd rather destroy the whole Nan family than give it to him. Me for extra chapters. Suyi lowered her eyes. A cold light with strong murderous intent flashed in her eyes. This was the first time that Suyi showed such an expression in front of old Master Nan. He froze for a moment, stared at Suyi, and smiled bitterly. Suyi, it's all my fault. If I hadn't brought that ungrateful child into our house, this wouldn't have happened. Yes, it was all because of him. Suyi smiled faintly and shook her head. It's all right, Father. I will still go back to the Nan family. Your body needs to recover completely. Qing'er has been in a coma for the past 2 years, unable to treat you. Now that Qing'er has returned, I believe that with her ability, you will recover your strength soon. Hearing these words, old Master Nin also quietly sighed in relief. He also wished to recover quickly, but he did not want to pressure Suyi and the girls. When Suyi was done speaking, she looked up and coincidentally saw Feng Ruching walking with Nan Xian. She was holding a cute little girl, followed by a young man with eyes as clear as water. Chapter 1884. Going home to Ching, Suyi was happy, and she hurriedly welcomed her. You guys are back. Feng Ruching smiled faintly. Suyi, I will take Chainer around first. Oh, where's grandfather? He hasn't come back yet. Oh. Feng Ruching smiled and turned to Feng Chun. She extended her hand to him. Her voice was clear, just as it was before. Chainer, let's go. Feng Chun was slightly stunned, but still put his hand in her palm. It was as if only the young girl in front of him would make him feel at ease. Nan Xian stood behind Feng Ruching, looking at the two who were already walking away. A smile broke upon his handsome face. Nan Xian. Suyi withdrew her gaze and turned to Nan Xian. How is Feng Chun? Nan Xian shook his head. He does not remember anyone except Qing. Suyi frowned. What can Qinger do then? Qinger will not leave him alone. If there is a way, she will definitely help him recover. The man stood with one hand on his back, facing the breeze. His gaze turned gentle as he smiled warmly. Inside Tianya's manor, Feng Ruching held Feng Chen's hand gently as she led him through the corridor, trying to make him familiarize himself with every blade of grass and tree in this place. Chainer, this will be our home from now on. The master in this place is our grandfather. You will meet him later. Feng Chun was slightly stunned. He looked up at Feng Ruching. But I just want you. Feng Ruching patted Feng Chen's shoulder and said helplessly, Chainer, he's our grandfather, so you must respect him. Can you understand? Feng Chun answered with some resignation in his voice. All right. Hearing Feng Chun agreeing with her, Feng Ruching smiled as she withdrew her gaze from him. It's good that you understand. Oh, I seem to have forgotten something. On this journey, she always felt that something was missing, but she could not remember. Me for extra chapters. Suddenly, Feng Ruching seemed to remember something, and she slapped her forehead violently. How could she forget the two little ones, Fu Chun and Qing Han? So, upon remembering these two little ones, Feng Ruching immediately released them from the medium. The moment Qing Han saw Feng Ruching, her eyes turned red. She cried out as if in pain and bounced toward her. Mother, I thought you didn't want us anymore. Her voice filled with tears. No one knew how much she had spent these 2 years in fear and terror. She knew the person that her mother saw when she was unconscious was not the state preceptor, but she had no way to tell her mother and could only watch her sink into it. Fu Chen's eyes were also a little red. Since they met Feng Ruching, they had never been apart for such a long time. Feng Ruching was unconscious for 2 years, and they lived in sorrow for 2 years. Qing Han did not even eat any spirit herb within these 2 years, as she had no appetite. Looking at these two little ones, Feng Ruching guiltily pulled them into her arms, hugging their tiny bodies tightly, as if this could give them some comfort. Qing Han's face was still pale, and her eyes filled with tears. She thought that her mother did not want her anymore and had locked them up for 2 years. Chapter 1885. Going home, Feng Ruching did not lock them up in the medium back then. They at least could accompany her and wait for her to wake up. Sorry for making you worry again. I won't lock you up again next time. Qing Han's tears fell like rain. You said the same thing the last time. Feng Ruching was speechless. She cleared her throat a little. I promise, it will never happen again. Qing Han's eyelashes fluttered for a moment before she slowly raised her head. Really? Next time, she would not give anyone the chance to hurt her again. All right, then I'll trust you one more time. Qing Han was still clinging to Feng Ruching's body. Despite these words, she was still reluctant to let go of her hand, seemingly not quite trusting her mother. Fu Chun. Feng Ruching turned to look at Fu Chun. The devil possessed Chainer, and now he has become a demon. He lost his memory. I don't know if I can help him recover. Fu Chun fell silent. After half a second, he raised his head, Big Black can help him. Big Black. Well, Big Black's blood can temporarily control his demonic nature, and he will not go crazy for the time being, but if you want to remove the demon inside his body completely, that is not so simple. Let me think about it. There must be a way to help him. All right. Feng Ruqing looked up at Fu Chun. Where did Big Black go? Why haven't I seen him? I don't know. Fu Chun was locked up in the medium for 2 years, and within these 2 years, the connection between the medium and the outside world was also cut off by Feng Ruqing. So, he did not know where Big Black had gone now. I got it. You guys help me watch Chainer. He'll be back. Feng Ruqing assuredly handed Feng Chun to Fu Chun and Qing Han, and she turned to leave. She ran into the White Phoenix as she walked toward the entrance gate. The moment the White Phoenix saw Feng Ruqing, its heart flashed with joy and flew toward her. Little Qing, I finally see you again. Feng Ruqing kicked the White Phoenix 3 meters away. Her face darkened. You stay away from me, or I'll tell Suyi. The White Phoenix's face stiffened. It was just too excited to see Feng Ruqing and almost could not control itself at once. White Phoenix. Fortunately, Feng Ruqing quickly changed the topic. Have you seen Big Black? Oh, you mean the dragon? It followed Tianya to Nan City. Why are you looking for it? Me for extra chapters. Well, can you go there for me now and help me get Big Black back and tell grandfather that I'm awake? When she woke up, Tianya had already gone out and had not returned for several days. And she was in a hurry to find Feng Chun, so she did not look for Tianya. Now since she had returned, it was time to discuss what would happen. She would never give the people who attacked General Manor another chance, whether those who had come to take Tang Yin or the Nan family or Nine Gate. They should all pay the price they deserve. A cold light flashed in Feng Ruqing's eyes. She smirked. All right, it'll go now. After hearing Feng Ruqing's words, the White Phoenix turned around and flew toward the sky. It was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had disappeared into the sky. Feng Ruqing looked in the direction the White Phoenix went, slowly turned around, and headed toward the backyard. Chapter 1886. Going home 4 outside Nan City. Tianya stood calmly with one hand resting on his back. A black dragon hovered in the sky, looking down at the people below coldly. Where is Nan Fong? Tell him to get out. Tianya's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. A group of guards stood outside Nan City. They looked at the old man in red robes in the sky with caution in their gazes. 2 years. This old man's strength seemed to have improved a lot again. Now that their master wanted to deal with Tianya, it might take even more time. Master is not in the city, the guard said expressionlessly. Tianya sneered. Oh, then I'll go in and see whether this bastard is here or not. Tianya raised his hand, and a long sword appeared out of thin air. The bitterly cold wind blew relentlessly, filling the whole city gate area with a cold aura. However, without waiting for Tianya to strike, a strobe of white light burst through the sky and landed in front of him and Big Black. Big Black saw the White Phoenix at a glance. It was stunned and asked, Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be at home guarding Little Nine? What are you doing here? The White Phoenix, who was perhaps running all the way wildly here and looked a little out of breath, did not even glance at Big Black before turning to look at Tianya. Little Qing is awake. In fact, Feng Ruqing had already woken up a few days ago, but she had gone out to find Feng Chun, so they did not tell Tianya. Now that Feng Ruqing had brought Feng Chun back with her, they should come to inform Tianya. Tianya's hand, holding the long sword, trembled. He suddenly stepped forward and grabbed the White Phoenix. What did you just say? Qinger woke up? Ha ha ha. Qinger has finally woken up. Tianya laughed out wildly. No one knew how he had spent the past 2 years, but he could not accompany her and wait for her to wake up like the others. He had to go and avenge her. Therefore, he forced himself to leave General Manor and came to settle the score with the Nan family. Now Feng Ruqing had finally woken up. Nan Fong is lucky today. He'll let him go now, but he'll be back soon. Seeing his precious granddaughter was important now. Tianya did not stay any longer. His body moved as fast as the wind. In a moment, he had disappeared into the sky. Big Black froze, its heart filled with incomparable excitement. Me for extra chapters. It looked at the tightly closed city gate behind it and stayed no longer. It flew into the sky and disappeared too. The entire city gate instantly fell silent. Even those guards of Nan's city were a little dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, Tinya was so aggressive. How come he had run away in the blink of an eye? However, they did not think anymore as they turned around and closed the gate. They had to hurry to their master to report this matter. Inside Nan Manor's study room, Nan Fong sat calmly and expressionlessly. His face was cold and serious, and the wind around him was bitterly cold. Master! The guard hurried in and knelt in front of Nan Fong. Tinya and Black Dragon have left. Left? Nan Fong frowned. With Tianya's character, how could he leave just like that? It seems like he left because Fong Ruching has woken up. Fong Ruching. This name made Nan Fong tremble with rage. It's her and Nan Xian who came and took my Suyi from me. He would never forget that. Chapter 1887. The person behind Nan Fong, Ai Wei Rong, walked in from outside the study room, and she could not help but smile coldly as she saw Nan Fang's darkened face. Are you thinking about Nan Suyi again? Nan Fong frowned and glanced at Wei Rong expressionlessly. This has nothing to do with you. Just do your job. Do my job? Wei Rong sneered. My husband is thinking about other women all day long. How can I sit back and do nothing? Nan Fong, do not forget how you once courted me, and do not forget that Suyi even has a son. Do you want this kind of impure woman too? Shut up. Nan Fong snapped, red in the face with veins bulging around his forehead. Get out. Wei Rong looked at Nan Fong. Her eyes had turned from the initial anger to calmness. This time, she did not say another word and simply turned around to walk out. Nan Fong clenched his fists tightly. Marrying Suyi was a dream he had since he was young. However, he did not really love her. It was just that this woman had always fought him, and he had never gotten her. So, he just wanted to fulfill this dream. Guard! Nan Fong shouted coldly. Within a few moments, a guard stood in front of Nan Fong, respectfully. Yes, master. Out is Nan Luo. A cold light flashed in his eyes, a light that made people shudder a little. Master, young lady is not very well. He'll go meet her. Within a small, remote courtyard, fallen leaves were drifting about. This place looked somewhat lonely. There was a wooden house that looked simpler than the other courtyards of the Nan family. Nan Luo wore a white dress, curled up in bed, her messy hair draped over her shoulders, and her eyes were filled with panic. Creak! Me for extra chapters. The door was pushed open. Nan Luo looked up. After looking at the middle-aged man standing in the doorway, she panicked and hurriedly took a few steps backward. Father, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please don't hit me. Please. Nan Fong stood with one hand on his back. His eyes were sharp and fierce, like a long sword, making Nan Luo tremble harder. She never knew that her father could be so terrifying to such an extent. When Nan Fong treated her as a daughter, she was the most respectful young lady of the Nan family, but she was even worse than a servant once she made Nan Fong unhappy. Nan Luo, do you know what you've done? Nan Luo raised her eyes in horror. I shouldn't hide in Tianya's manor and ignore you. Father, I know I was wrong. Please let me go. Tears fell from her eyes, her face was pale, and her voice trembled a bit when she spoke. Bang! Nan Fong suddenly stepped forward and kicked Nan Luo in her chest, sending her flying straight out. Her body hit the wall. Her tears flowed again from the pain. What exactly is wrong with you? His face darkened as he picked up Nan Luo's lapel with a hand. Nan Fong was like the devil from hell. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Nan Luo bit her lip hard. Tears fell like rain. I shouldn't have thoughts about Nan Xian. Chapter 1888. The person behind Nan Fong, Nan Xian, was Suyi's son, and Nan Fong hated him. Therefore, she should not have thoughts about Nan Xian, let alone try to betray her father for him. It looks like you still don't know your mistake. Nan Fong picked up Nan Luo's lapel and dragged her to her knees in front of him. He sneered. At first, When your mother scolded you, Suyi backed you up, so she was clearly soft on you. But why is Suyi suddenly disgusted with you? You were soft to her and did not drug her. Later, you lost her trust, and she ran away from me. It's all your fault. Nan Luo was dumbfounded. Her tears were pouring as she said, "It's not me. It's Feng Ruqing's fault." Feng Ruqing? Nan Fong pulled Nan Luo fiercely. His face remained expressionless. "Tell me." Nan Luo gathered the courage to look up. Her face was pale. "Aunt Suyi had promised to take me away, but Feng Ruqing knew that I have a feeling for Nan Xian. She hated me, so she forbade Aunt Suyi to take me. Father, it really has nothing to do with me. Feng Ruqing talked bad about me in front of Aunt Suyi. I could do nothing." Nan Fong let go of his hand and sneered. "Most of the spirit beasts in Spirit Beast Mountain were taken away by this woman, and she has also snatched Suyi from me. She ruined my plan." Seeing that Nan Fong believed her words, Nan Luo let out a sigh of relief. She then looked at Nan Fong timidly. Her voice was weak. "Father, it's not that I don't want to contact you, but Feng Ruqing has sent her men to watch me. I don't have a chance to reach the Nan family. I'm afraid that if she finds out, I will be kicked out of Tianya's manor." Nan Luo staggered from the bed and knelt in front of Nan Fong. Her voice was tinged with sobs. "How could I betray you? Moreover, if Father gets Aunt Suyi, I can also get Nan Xian. But Feng Ruqing did not allow Aunt Suyi to keep me. I have a miserable life in Tianya's manor, but for you, Father, I will endure all the pain." Nan Fong was silent for a moment. Nan Luo was timid and somewhat useless, but she would not lie. This was something he could still understand as her father. Moreover, Feng Ruqing was indeed bad-natured and jealous, and it was normal for her not to allow Nan Luo to approach Nan Xian. However, Nan Luo had failed the mission he gave her, and he would not accept any excuse to cover up her uselessness. "Me for extra chapters. If I let you go to Suyi again, can you make her like you again?" Nan Fong asked coldly. Nan Luo raised her head in shock. "Father, Aunt Suyi hates me now. I have no way to make her like me again. Moreover, Feng Ruqing has woken up, so it's hard to approach Aunt Suyi again." "Nan Luo, do you know that you can change your body?" "Change my body?" Nan Luo was dumbfounded. "Isn't this something that only the powerful, skilled masters can do? What does Father mean by this?" "I plan to let you take over a body and change your body to find Suyi." At that instant, Nan Luo's face was pale. She knew that to change her body, she must die first. "Father!" Nan Luo panicked, kowtowing on the ground. "I don't want to die. Please don't kill me. I can just change my face and go to Aunt Suyi again." "Idiot!" Nan Fong kicked her fiercely. "With Feng Ruqing and Tianya's ability, won't they notice you? Only changing the whole body can give you the chance to get close to them." Nan Luo fell to the ground helplessly. She raised her head to look at Nan Fong, her face showing despair. "Father, I am your daughter. How can you do this to me? Am I even your daughter?" Nan Luo's voice cracked. "Just because you're my daughter, I want to help you. You like Nan Xian, right? Why don't you change your identity and approach him again?" Nan Fong looked down at the young girl on the ground coldly. Nan Luo looked down and laughed bitterly. "I do like him, but I do not want to give up my life for this reason. Even after I change my identity and approach him again, the ending will never change. He already has Feng Ruqing. Father, don't you understand this? Is there such a thing as a faithful man that will never cheat in this world? All men are the same. You failed, and it means that your ability is not enough. If you were capable, you would be his wife by now." Nan Luo looked up at Nan Fong, trembling. Nan Fang's eyes filled with so much terror that her heart was shivering as she faced him. "Father, I still don't want to die, even for his sake. I don't want to die." Nan Luo lowered her head. She had always thought that she was Nan Fang's daughter, and no matter how much Nan Fong favored men over women, she would not be treated too badly. However, the punishment she received in the past 2 years had long made her disheartened. Perhaps Suyi was right at the beginning. She should leave the Nan family. At least, she would not live worse than a dog. It was already too late to regret. Me for extra chapters. A person who could even poison his adoptive father. Such a person. Could he be considered a human? It is not up to you. Nan Fong raised his hand and grabbed Nan Luo fiercely. His face was cold as he said, Nan Luo, you must obey me this time. Otherwise, your life will be worse than this past 2 years. Moreover, I found someone for you. Guard, bring her in. The guard pushed a girl into the room. The girl was so beautiful that no words could describe her beauty. Her skin was as fair as snow, but her hair was a bit messy, covering her face. However, just looking at her side profile was enough to make people's hearts flutter. Nan Luo's lips trembled as she looked up at Nan Fong. Father, a member of Nine Gate. She's the only daughter of the venerable Hui Yin from Nine Gate. I have put in a lot of effort to get her here. Nan Luo, I'm helping you because you are my daughter. She has an honorable status in Nine Gate, and you will not suffer in the Nan family again. But, he sneered and turned to Nan Luo, I have a way to make you take her body and a way to get you out of it, if you still dare to betray me this time. Chapter 1890. The person behind Nan Fong 4-inch, I won't give you a second chance. Nan Luo looked up in a panic. Nan Fong gave her no chance to speak and grabbed her neck with one hand. He snapped Nan Luo's neck hard, and she fell to the ground unconscious. The people who followed Nan Fong were stunned. They had always known that their master was a cruel man, but this was his daughter. Yet, he was so cruel to his daughter. Perhaps, in the Nan family, only the young master, Nan Feiyu, could soften Nan Fang's heart. Everyone else was just a tool for him to use. However, no one knew that even the young master was also his tool. The only thing was that this tool still had great use, so of course, Nan Fong would treat him well. If the young master were useless one day, Nan Fong would throw him away, and his life would be no different from the garbage. At least, Wei Rong sincerely cared for her son. Get rid of her body, and then put this woman to a room to let her rest. When she wakes up, the soul that resides in her body will become Nan Luo. Nan Luo should thank me for giving her this opportunity. If Nan Luo could have this woman's face, she wouldn't have been treated coldly by Nan Xian. She failed to seduce Nan Xian because she wasn't good enough. Nan Fong loved beauty, so there were no men who would not fall for beauty in his mind. It was like the first time he saw a beautiful Sui. He could not forget her, and he had to get her with all his efforts. Even if it was only for a short time, it was enough. Yes, master. The guards looked somewhat scared of Nan Fong. They did not even see that the moment they left, Nan Fong was staring at them coldly. After everyone had disappeared, an indistinct figure stood behind Nan Fong. This person was dressed in black, indescribably weird and cold. Nan Fong turned to look at the man in black behind him and asked, What I need to do next? The man in black laughed coldly. What comes next? We'll tell you later, and it's not easy to deal with Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian. Me for extra chapters. Why? I feel that her strength is no better than Tianya. Why do you think they are the most difficult people to deal with? Why? The man in black sneered. Of course, it's because of the 9th Emperor and Nan Chongfeng. Back then, he managed to gather everyone and attacked Nan Chongfeng to force the 9th Emperor out. In that battle, they did seriously injure Nan Chongfeng and even killed him. However, it was also because of that battle, all of them suffered serious losses. The 9th Emperor was like a madman. She stained the entire mainland with blood. Only strong men could conquer this mainland, and they had always bullied the weak one until the appearance of the 9th Emperor. She always liked to meddle. Once, his men had merely killed an innocent, and this madman locked them in the sculpture. He had to stay inside a brick for so many years. Chapter 1891. The person behind Nan Fong V. Shi moved the sculpture to the man's grave, even set up a formation that could not let other people in, and made him kneel in front of that grave for 1,000 years. The commoners regarded her as a god. However, to him, this madman was a devil. Even after they gathered countless skilled masters to kill her several times, she was too strong. They failed to defeat her. In the end, They killed Nan Chongfeng, but caused all the powerful, skilled masters in this mainland to die in her hands. Feng Ruching is not something you can mess with. For the time being, you should hide and not start any conflict with Tianya, the man in black said coldly. Nan Feng froze. He really wanted to rush out and fight with Tianya when that old man screamed and cursed outside his city, but the man behind him forbade him from going out. However, this man was quite powerful. 2 years ago, during Nan Feiyu's inheritance test, this man made Nan Feiyu inherit 1/10 of Nan Changfeng's power. Just this 1/10 was enough for him to prove to the world that his son was the reincarnation of Nan Chongfeng. All of this was all because of this man. Nan Feng pondered for a moment and asked, "When will all the inheritance left behind by Nan Chongfeng be inherited by my son?" The man in black sneered, "You don't have to think about this matter yet. Your son is not the reincarnation of Nan Chongfeng after all, so I don't have any other way for the time being." Nan Feng sighed with some disappointment, but did not say more. He pondered for a short while and asked, "Can Nan Luo enter Tianya's manor again this time?" If she wants to enter Tianya's manor, she has to stay away from the two people, Feng Ruching and Nan Xian. Otherwise, she will easily be discovered by them. The man in black was silent for a moment before he slowly spoke again. "Well, I will take care of her. If there is nothing more, I will go out first. We will discuss it again after Nan Luo has woken up." After Nan Feng said that, he walked out of the study room in large strides. The man in black stared at Nan Feng's back as he left, and his figure gradually disappeared into the wooden room. Nan Chongfeng, the 9th emperor, after 1,000 years. I don't know if you guys still remember me. Me for extra chapters. And this time, not only Nan Chongfeng, all those who are related to you, all will die. I will not give you the chance to come back to this world. Meanwhile, all the people in Nintgate were busy with a lot of work. They had to deal with Tianya and think of ways to get close to Nanqiyu. More importantly, Huiyan's daughter had disappeared. She was his only child. He loved his daughter and often gave her all the best things in the world. However, someone had dared to kidnap Hui Yan's only daughter. It was like they were pulling the tiger's fur, looking for death. The people of Nine Gate did not care about the trouble from Tianya. They were all sent to the entire land of no return to look for Hui Yu. Just as Nine Gate was anxious about this, Maiden Hui Yu suddenly appeared on her own. After hearing the news, Hui Yin hurried out, and from afar, he saw the girl standing at the doorway. His eyes were red, and he hurriedly rushed toward her. Where have you been? Who has taken you away? Tell father. Father will go to settle accounts with him." The young girl looked up in a daze, her gaze blanked and dumbfounded as she stared at the old man in front of her. Yes, the one standing in front of her was an old man. Hui Yin had a daughter quite late in life, but he loved her and pampered her. His heart was quietly relieved as he saw her safe and sound. However, if he knew who had taken his daughter away, he would never forgive them. Hui was a little lost, and she regained her sense after seeing the old man's concerned eyes. Her voice was hoarse, and she hesitated for a long while before she managed to say a few words. "I'm fine. It's good that you're fine." The old man's eyes teared as he went forward and pulled the young girl into his arms. The young girl's face was pale, but Huiyan did not ask anything more. He called his men, "Take the young lady to rest. Prepare some meals for the young lady, and then bathe her well. She looks dirty." The young girl's body stiffened for a moment and subconsciously grabbed the old man's sleeve. Such care was something she had never enjoyed in all these years. The only feeling she had was the fear of death. She had thought that all the daughters in this world were treated like her until she met Feng Ruching and the people of Nine Gate. The young girl pursed her lips and shook her head. "No, I can do it myself." "What nonsense! Let these servants serve you. When have you ever done anything yourself?" The old man looked confused. The young girl trembled slightly. She pursed her lips. How nice it would be to be like this for the rest of your life. She also wanted someone to love her and spoil her. So when she saw Suyi back then, it was like seeing hope. That was why she tried every possible way to get Suyi to marry her father. However, in the end, she still failed to make Suyi like her, me, for extra chapters. The young girl looked at the old man's concerned eyes. However, just at this moment, she inexplicably remembered Nan Fang's words before letting her go. She trembled a little and hurriedly lowered her head. No, I can't rely on him. If this time she did not complete the task, Nan Fang would expose her, and Nine Gate would never let her go. Thinking of this, the young girl raised her eyes and smiled gently. All right, father. Hui Yin subconsciously sighed with relief. He felt weird because his daughter used to be lazy and never did anything on her own. But why did she say she wanted to do something herself now? She must have suffered a lot. The servant helped the young girl to leave. The old man's face sank. He then shouted coldly, Guard, find out who kidnapped my daughter. Even if she has returned, I will not let anyone who bullied her go. Yes, your holiness. The two guards following the old man cupped their fists respectfully and retreated. Yin clenched his fists tightly as his breathing grew heavy. He did not know what kind of hardship his daughter had endured outside, but now she had changed a bit and was not as lively as before. Before this, she would have jumped into his arms for comfort after being away for days. But this time, she was different. She was quiet, making him more angry and heartbroken. 9 Gates. Inside a luxurious room. Nan Luo's fingers brushed across the table as she walked toward the bed. She looked somewhat amazed. In Land of No Return, the Nan family status was not lower than 9 Gate, and she was the eldest young lady of the Nan family. Her status was also equal to Huiyu, but what they had here was indeed different from the Nan family. Please let me out. Let me out. Within her soul, another voice came. It was filled with endless grief, weak, and almost inaudible. Nan Luo looked down and tried to shut the voice. The pain of death resurfaced in her mind, causing her to tremble in fear. You better stay there silently and wait for your death. Indeed, only one soul could exist in a body. The current Huiyu was not completely gone yet. Nan Luo opened her eyes slowly. These 2 years of life were like a nightmare. If she returned to the Nan family, Nan Fang would be even crueler to her. Therefore, she could not return to the Nan family. In the future, she would have only one identity, the daughter of the venerable Hui Yin of 9 Gate. Huiyu, please don't hurt any people at 9 Gate. Please, the voice continued, annoying Nan Luo. Shut up. I'm now a member of 9 Gate. How can I hurt 9 Gate? But everything you have is already mine. Nan Luo smiled. This smile was so cold, and she no longer had a timid look. No one knew there was evil hidden beneath this innocent face. The voice finally did not speak again, and Nan Luo felt that the whole sky was finally quiet. The sound of the door opening from outside the door made her slowly turn around. She saw a servant entering. Young lady, this is the meal prepared for you by His Holiness, me for extra chapters. A whole long tray of delicious food was carried into the room by the servants and respectfully placed in front of her. Nan Luo had never been treated like this when she was in the Nan family. Often, the only one who had this kind of treatment was Nan Feiyu. So after experiencing this, her heart was quite touched. Perhaps it would be nice if she could stay in 9 Gate forever. For a moment, this thought sprang up in Nan Luo's heart, causing her to be startled for a moment. She lowered her head, covering the shock behind her eyes. She pursed her lips and said, You guys can leave now. Yes, young lady. The servants put the meals on the table and left the room. Nan Luo stared at the table full of delicious meals, and her heart trembled slightly. No, I want to be able to stay here in peace. That bastard Nan Fang will never let me go. Nan Luo bit her lip hard. If she wanted to stay, she had to get rid of Nan Fang. Perhaps Nan Fang did not know that once a person's heart had been betrayed, she would no longer be submissive to him. If there were enough opportunity, she would still betray him, general manner. Tianyao rushed in, and from afar, he saw the woman standing in the courtyard. His eyes were red, and tears appeared in his eyes. Chinger, the woman looked up, and her gaze fell upon Tianya's pale face. After 2 years of not seeing him, Tianya was even older than before. His white hair made her heart ache. Chapter 1894. He's still jealous. The woman looked and immediately saw Tianya, who was standing not far away. She was slightly stunned and said with a smile, "You're back." "Yes, I'm back." Tianya's eyes were moist. He could not believe that he would see his granddaughter again so soon. He raised his hand, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and smiled faintly. "I'm glad you're fine." He finally could say these words, which he had been waiting to say for 2 long years. The stone hovering over his heart finally fell away. "Little Nine." Big Black rushed toward Feng Ruching with eyes filled with tears. Suddenly, a cold aura stopped him before he could get close to Feng Ruching, sending chills down his spine. Big Black transformed into a young man in the sky, looking at Feng Ruching with sad eyes. "Nancian, don't scare him for now. I need him to help me." Feng Ruching smiled at Nancian gently, then turned his gaze to Big Black. "Big Black, I heard that your blood could temporarily seal the demon inside a human's body." Big Black was created from the surrounding spiritual chi, so his blood contained powerful spiritual energy, which had many powerful effects. The young man blinked. "Fuchin told you, right? Little Nine, has someone been possessed by a demon?" "Well, it's Chainer." "Chaina?" Tianya stared blankly at Feng Ruching. "Has our family received a guest? And he's possessed by a demonic spirit?" Feng Ruching froze. She looked up at Tianya and pondered for a moment. "Has no one told you that you have a grandson?" Tianya rubbed his head and was a little hesitant as he said, "It seems like someone has mentioned it, but I don't really remember." Feng Ruching was speechless. Tianya looked at Feng Ruching and asked, "Do you need my help?" She shook her head. "No need for the time being. Big Black can help me. Grandfather, I think. It's time to settle the score with the Nan family in Nine Gate. I need you to prepare for this. Me for extra chapters." She suddenly had a feeling that their peaceful days would not last long. Tianya looked down. He did not see Nan Fong when he went to Nan City with Big Black. That bastard was like a shrinking turtle, hiding in Nan City and not coming out. "Chinger, the current situation of Nan City is a bit complicated now. They have set up several formations to guard the city gate. Some of the skilled masters who attacked us back then are hiding in Nan City. I think it's not that easy to attack them." "Formations?" Feng Ruching stroked her chin. A cold light flashed in her eyes. "When the time comes, they'll go and take a look. Big Black, come with me. Chainer is still waiting for us." "Oh, all right." The young man glared at Nancian. "Oomph. So what if Little Nine is yours now? She still needs me, and there are some things that only I can do for her." "Gina." Nancian looked at Big Black and smiled faintly. He then walked toward Feng Ruching. "In with you." He wrapped his arm around her waist and glanced at Big Black coldly. Big Black froze, clenching his fists tightly. At this moment, he had to admit that he was still jealous of Nancian. "I can't wait to break this bastard into pieces and snatch Little Nine back." Big Black stared at Nancian with eyes full of hatred. If he could kill Nancian, Nancian's blood would have splattered all over the place in the blink of an eye. Feng Chun saw the oncoming crowd from afar in the middle of the silent backyard, and a smile broke upon his cold face. "Ching Ching." His voice was warm, only when he was facing Feng Ruching. Tianya's eyes were fixed upon Feng Chun. He then smiled and nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad. At least he's better than that kid, Feng Tianwu." The old housekeeper who followed behind Tianya was a bit sweaty. "General, you weren't like this when you met young lady back then." Sure enough, General loves his granddaughter more than his grandson. Feng Chun frowned and looked at Tianya in confusion. He turned to look at Feng Ruching again. There was a hint of stubbornness in his gaze. "Ching Ching, who are they?" In these few days, perhaps because he had always been with her, Feng Chun had recovered a lot. The only thing that remained the same was that he still could not remember these people. But Tianya frowned. "This kid's blood is somewhat special. As far as I know, he should have been restricted from even cultivating it first. I don't know how he recovered." When Feng Ruching first met Feng Chun, He was already unable to make any breakthrough. She did not know how Feng Chun had followed her to land of no return and what he had gone through all these years. It was so heartbreaking to see him in such a condition. He'll talk to you about these things later. Big Black, I want you to help me. Feng Rooking's eyes fell upon the young man's handsome face. Chainer, come with me. Feng Chun smiled brightly, but his smile was always reserved only for Feng Ruching. Me for extra chapters. His smile disappeared instantly when facing others, leaving only a cold expression. If it were not because Feng Chun was Feng Rooking's brother, perhaps Nan Xian would have misunderstood Feng Chen's feelings for her. General, the old housekeeper stood behind Tianya, looking at Feng Rooking's departing figure, and asked respectfully, Kin young master, I trust you? Old housekeeper, summon all skilled masters. The Nan family has hurt my granddaughter. I will never let him go. A cold light flashed in Tianya's eyes. Yes, General. Young lady has woken up, and young master is back. It seems like land of no return is no longer a land of peace now. But all of this is long predestined. The Nan family had dared to attack Tianya. It proved that the conflict between the two sides had reached the point where they could not coexist in the same territory. The old housekeeper left. The sun was warm, but it could not melt Tianya's cold gaze. Nan Fong, I don't care who's behind you. You can't escape from me again, and I won't ever give up till I find you. Ever since Feng Ruching brought Big Black to treat Feng Chun, they had not left the room since 3 days ago. Feng Chun had just returned, but he was the young master of General Manor. Of course, everyone in General Manor was so worried about him. Even Xia Xia sat at the door waiting for them for 3 days. She placed her hand on her cheek, looking at the closed door unblinkingly, until 3 days later, the door was slowly opened. Feng Ruching walked out. Her face was calm, expressionless. However, seeing her calm expression, everyone understood that she had succeeded. Xiao Qing, Tang Yin walked toward Feng Ruching, and her face was filled with joy. Did you succeed? Yes. Feng Ruching nodded slightly. We have sealed the demon, but Chainer suffered a lot of injuries, and he still doesn't know anyone else besides me. But now we don't need to worry about him getting sick again. Even if I'm not here, it's still safe. As for getting rid of it completely, that would be somewhat difficult. Sealing the demon was quite simple. Either Nan Xian or Feng Ruching could do it. However, the demon had almost taken over all of his body and his heart. Only with Big Black's blood could help him regain his control over his body. Big Black followed behind Feng Ruching, pouting. I've lost almost a spoonful of blood this time. Little Nine must help me replenish my energy. Feng Ruching paused for a moment. Big Black has great blood, and its meat is also a great tonic. I still remember when Mu Ling was trying to help Chun Qingyan catch Big Black back then. The day she met Big Black, Mu Ling happened to be there, but she knew that Nan Xian was following her, so she left early, leaving only the Mu family behind. Really, me for extra chapters. Xia Xia's eyes lit up. She turned to Big Black, subconsciously swallowed her saliva that almost flowed out. Big Black trembled as he took a few steps back. Little girl, my meat is not tasty. It's bitter. Oh, Xia Xia smiled. Now Uncle Dragon is in human form. Xia Xia will not eat people, but when Uncle turns into a dragon, I will eat your meat. Big Black froze. He would never turn into a dragon again. Little Nine, don't let this little girl and Qing Han play with each other. Look at this girl. She wants to eat everything. Big Black huffed and puffed. Feng Ruching smiled faintly. She raised her hand and touched Xia Xia's small head, then looked at Big Black. You're not a real dragon. Big Black was the surrounding spiritual qi that transformed into a dragon, and he was not really a dragon. Feng Ruching turned to Tang Yin and asked, Where is grandfather? Tang Yin blinked. In the study room? He's been waiting for you. All right, Feng Ruching smiled. Tang Yin, because of the last incident, you and my cousin's wedding did not go on as we planned. We will reorganize it then, but I have to settle the Nan family first. Tang Yin was stunned. Her cheeks were slightly red as Nailan Jing's face suddenly appeared in her mind. She shook her head and said, I do not want to marry him. I want to be with Xiaoqing. In that instant, Nanxian glanced at Tang Yin coldly, causing Tang Yin to shut her mouth suddenly. Oh, so this dog will not allow me to go near Xiaoqing. Then I will be her cousin's sister-in-law. In the future, Gu Yi and I will be his elders. I want to see how he will drive us away. Feng Ruqing smiled, did not stay any longer, and went to the study room with Nanxian. Inside the study room, Tianya frowned as if he was thinking of something serious. The door pushed open. He looked up and saw two familiar figures pushing open the door and walking in. Tianya stood up and smiled as he walked toward them. Qinger, Nanxian, you've come out? Back when he first met Feng Ruqing, he was very disapproving of this kid, Nanxian. After all, he had not even met his granddaughter yet, and she had already married someone, so it was a little upsetting to think about it. However, over time, he could gradually accept Nanxian. Moreover, Nanxian had sacrificed a lot when Feng Ruqing was unconscious for 2 years. Even his hair had become as white as snow. Where are we going to find the Nan family? Feng Ruqing lowered her gaze. The Nan family had not only tried to hurt Suyi, but they were the real culprit who had spread the news about Tang Yin, inciting the battle in general manner 2 years ago. The old and new grudges would be settled together. There have been some changes in Land of No Return in these few days. Do you still remember Spirit Beast Mountain? Spirit Beast Mountain was where Feng Ruqing went when she first came to Land of No Return. Me for extra chapters. And that was the place she had met the group of leopards. What happened to Spirit Beast Mountain? Recently, the spirit beasts on Spirit Beast Mountain all seemed to be crazy. I suspect that Nan Fong must have done something to them. The Nan family has controlled all the spirit beasts in Land of No Return. The old master Nan said that Nan Fong has a drug that can make people confused. He's relying on this drug to get the spirit beasts. The spirit beasts had always been arrogant, and it was hard to tame them. Because of the drug in his hands, he could control those spirit beasts and use them as his slaves. Nan Fong was also called a godlike figure by the Nan family. What else does Nan Fong need these spirit beasts for? Feng Ruqing frowned. Initially, Nan Fong was weak, and he needed the spirit beasts to consolidate his power, but now that he had reached this level, he should not require the spirit beast. I'm not sure. Maybe he feels that all the spirit beasts belong to him, and he does not want others to have them. Tianya sneered. Feng Ruqing lowered her gaze. The spirit beasts don't belong to anyone. They have the right to choose their master. Feng Ruqing had never forced the spirit beasts to work with her. She only used some offer of benefits to tempt them. It was equivalent to an employment relationship, which later developed into a master-servant relationship. However, if any spirit beast wanted to leave, she would not stop them. Every spirit beast had the right to choose for itself. I don't know much about the details. Spirit Beast Mountain is not safe now. Many people have been attacked there, and if I'm not mistaken, Nan Fong is hiding something in Spirit Beast Mountain. That's why he had driven all the spirit beasts crazy to stop others from approaching Spirit Beast Mountain. So was Nan Fong hiding? Feng Ruqing stroked her chin and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, she laughed out loud. Grandfather, Suyi once said that the Nan family has many formations. It's not impossible to break in. It just takes a little longer, so since Nan Fong doesn't allow anyone to go near Spirit Beast Mountain, why don't we just go there and force him out? What's more, a cold light flashed in Feng Ruqing's eyes. I want to know why the spirit beasts are going crazy. All right, Tianya nodded. Then they'll start preparing now, and we'll go to Spirit Beast Mountain tonight. I want to kill that bastard. Smiling, Feng Ruqing turned around and walked toward the door. She saw Suyi standing in front of her from a distance, and she slowly walked to Suyi's side. Grandfather and I have decided to go to Spirit Beast Mountain. Nan Fong will come and stop us. Even if he is unwilling to leave Nan City, you will definitely come. Do you want to go with me, or? Suyi smiled faintly. Of course we'll go together. Her answer was what Feng Ruqing had expected. After all, Suyi's hatred for Nan Fong was not less than theirs. Well, then I'll go prepare some herbal dishes, and I also have to see Xia Xia. Feng Ruqing always worried about Xia Xia. Xia Xia was still young. No matter how strong she once was, she could not protect herself now. All right, Suyi smiled. I also have to do some preparation. Feng Ruqing nodded and turned around, walking toward the backyard. Nan Xian kept following her smilingly. Qing'er, am always with you. Feng Ruqing paused and smiled. I know. No matter what, Nan Xian would always stay with her. Me for extra chapters. When Feng Ruqing stepped into the courtyard, she saw Qiu Hui playing with Xia Xia. 2 years ago, after Qiu Hui knew something had happened to General Manor, she rushed back, and she was the one who brought Xia Xia back. Qiu Hui. Qiu Hui stood up and turned to look at Feng Ruqing. Maiden Feng, you're here. Qiu Hui, we'll be leaving General Manor tonight. I will leave Xia Xia in your care. Feng Ruqing's voice was as firm as her expression. Qiu Hui froze for a moment. She lowered her head and suddenly laughed out loud. When the people of Nine Gate wanted to take Xia Xia away, you should know that I am a venerable member of Nine Gate. Now you are leaving, but you want to leave her in my care? Are you not afraid that I will bring her to Nine Gate? Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. I trust you. If you want to take Xia Xia away, you had many opportunities in those 2 years when I was unconscious. Everyone else is coming with me tonight, and the only one I can trust is you. Qiu Hui froze. She felt a sense of warmth filling her heart. She was a member of Nine Gate. Yet, Feng Ruqing still trusted her. This feeling of trust warmed her heart. Moreover, Feng Ruqing paused. I believe in grandfather. He had such a good relationship with you, before proves that you're a good woman. Qiu Hui was speechless. Maiden Feng, have you forgotten about Feng Lianqing? Tianya had taken Feng Lianqing in. She looked quiet, and no one would have expected that she would cause so much trouble in the end. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.